Thank you for joining me on another episode of the Katrina Johnson Show. I am so grateful to have you with me. And today I'm going to talk on the subject of compassion and kindness. And the question I want to pose is showing compassion and kindness an intentional act, or is it automatic? When you listen to this particular episode, I'm going to share with you my story, something that happened late last year, 2021. And then I'll let you determine which one it was. Was it compassion and an act of kindness? Was it intentional or was it automatic? But just to speak on this subject, you all might have experienced, or some of you may have at one point or another experienced a pay it forward. Maybe you were the one that paid it forward, or someone paid it forward for you. How did that make you feel? Perhaps you were in a drive-thru at a fast food or coffee shop, and by the time you get to the window to pay for your meal or your coffee or what have you, the person at the window, the worker, tells you the person ahead of you took care of that. How did that make you feel? Most importantly, the question is, how did it make the person that extended that compassion or act of kindness feel? So there is something deep in this, and if you've never experienced the feeling that you get after an act of kindness or being compassionate towards someone, then I suggest you put that to the test. It's hard for me to explain, but I've had many examples throughout my life, in my latter years, of how that can be very effective in someone's life. For instance, at one point, I was starting a nonprofit, and the local shelter in my area needed people to help serve food. And I believe I found out about this organization, and I just reached out to them because part of the nonprofit that I was starting was to feed the homeless. And so I prepared a meal. I did it a couple times, volunteered to prepare a meal for the homeless. And I had my children, my two youngest, help me with this endeavor. And I remember, I don't even know if they remember because they were a little younger then, but I remember that experience made a difference in their life and in mine as well. I just felt like, wow, I just did something to bless someone. And that feeling is something you can't even explain. You can't explain that. So if you've never experienced the joy, I don't know how to explain it, just the love of giving, doing an act of kindness, performing an act of kindness, and being compassionate towards someone, whether it's intentional or an automatic thing, then I suggest you work on that in your life. Because I'm a true believer that what we put out, we get back, good or bad. So with that being said, this is a short one. This is a short podcast, but it's full of wisdom. It's full of kindness and compassion. It's very thought-provoking. Enjoy this episode. Welcome back to another edition of the Katrina Johnson Show. This is the second episode of the year. I am coming in a different fashion with this one. I just wanted to share just some words of inspiration. I'm going to tell a story, a true story, that happened in December of 2021. I want to share this story to inspire others to do the same in 2022, to be cognitive and mindful of our actions. I'll start with the quote. The quote says, "For every action we undertake, for every word we speak, for every life we touch, it matters." And that is a quote by Qui Gon Jinn. One cold December last year, I went shopping at the local mall, and I noticed there were vendors set up outside selling various products. I stopped at one vendor who was selling women's accessories and apparel. After asking about some of the items for sale, I said to the woman vendor, "You must be freezing." She immediately answered yes. I then asked her how long she would be out there selling and found out that she had at least a couple more hours to go. I then asked if she had something hot to sip on to keep warm. She replied no. I felt compelled to go and buy her a hot beverage. I was going to pay for it myself, but she insisted that she'd pay for it and buy me whatever I wanted. I took her money and went inside the mall to purchase her hot tea. I didn't want anything but to help her to keep warm. There's no such thing as being too compassionate or speaking too many kind words. However, we often fall short of these acts of kindness. The very act of kindness not only touches the heart of the receiver in a positive way, but the giver as well. Compassion and kindness is an area for growth in most people's lives. In this new year, let's make it a goal, as often as possible, to show compassion and demonstrate acts of kindness. Hope you guys enjoyed that brief, inspirational component to this podcast, and really be mindful of how you can share acts of kindness and compassion in 2022. Thanks for listening, and as always, stay inspired. Let's keep the conversation going by emailing me at katrina@katrinajohnson.online. That's katrina@katrinajohnson.online. So grateful that you joined me on this episode. Remember, information plus inspiration equals transformation. And until next time, stay inspired.